So I called on another bank, a small bank named Pacific National Bank, and Mr. Sinelli listened to my story. He said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to take this little packaging plant, and I'm going to close that and not pay any more rent in Burlingame and move it to the Caswell plant and save a ton of overhead, and then give my private label instant coffee customers the opportunity of buying private label roasted coffee, vacuum-packed roasted coffee that we'll produce here at Caswell. And I can build a bigger business. And he said, that's great. He said, what about let me see your business plan. I said, well, I don't have a business plan. He said, well, how much debt do you need? Well, I don't know. If you had debt, how would you pay it back? Well, I don't know yet. And so he would pepper me with questions, and the questions he asked, the answers to the questions that he asked were exactly the answers I should have known had I studied as hard as I should have studied when I went to Michigan's business school. But instead of doing like you guys all do, instead of being a great student, I would come back after classes and have a beer and chase girls. And so I kind of got in that habit at Michigan. Even then, they had great beer and wonderful co-eds. I'm sure this has never happened to anybody in this room. So what happened is that Mr. Sinelli at the bank became my graduate business program from the University of Michigan, because I would leave his office, I would go back to my apartment, and with a legal-size pad of yellow paper, you guys know what, you know what that is? I don't even know if you do know. That pad, that legal pad's about that big. And I would get out my Michigan books, business books, and I would look up the words he used that I didn't understand, and I would look up the disciplines he asked me if I had done, which I didn't, and I would go ahead and do them, and I would learn the words, and I would learn what they meant, and I would do all the things that you're doing here at the Ross School. At the end of 3 months, I went back to Mr. Sinelli, and he said, Larry, the bank is going to finance you. By then, I was 26, so I was a pretty old guy then. He said, the bank's going to finance you. He said, we're going to give you a $350,000 first mortgage on the Caswell building, and we're going to give you $350,000 unsecured. And the last $300,000 you have to raise. Well, by 26, I had met a lot of people in San Francisco. I was armed with a good business plan, and I talked to some of the leaders in San Francisco, the business leaders, and they believed me. And so six San Franciscans invested $50,000 each. That gave me $1 million, and I was able to go into Mr. Malmgren at Caswell, and because of my clever negotiating skills, pay him the $1 million that he said he wanted in the beginning.